welcome to the after show. We could do that in post with audio effects, but why bother? Our discussion today will be about the creators of .hack X4th, Hiroshi Matsuyama, or Pyros, and Megane Kikuya, as well as our other experiences with the world of .hack.
That's right. So make sure you hit subscribe and click the notification bell for updates.
We like
comics
because they have no home.
So let us talk about our writer, Hiroshi Matsuyama, who is a Japanese game designer and CEO of the company CyberConnect 2, which hopefully isn't anything like the CyberConnect Corp or CC Corp in the .hack games, because they're not so great.
No.
But he is also the real-life name of the characters of Pyros and Pyros III in .hack GU. Mm-hmm. He was interested in anime and manga as a child. He grew up to start CyberConnect with 9 other people. So very small company, and I think it still has 10 people with it.
Oh, wow.
Even currently. He was originally an illustrator, but became a game designer, playing a key role in developing the concept for the .hack series. He said he expressed difficulties in featuring characters' deaths, so that's kind of why all the characters fall into comas when they're infected with a virus.
Interesting.
So he tries not to kill off characters. He's also one of the creators of the game Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm, and even cosplayed as Naruto in the 2012 Paris Marathon to promote the game. And you can find this online.
What the heck?
He was also selected by Square Enix to direct the mobile game Final Fantasy VII G-Bike, and in an interview he asked Square Enix producer Shinji Hashimoto if he was interested in a Final Fantasy VII remake, but at the time Hashimoto was not. And so Matsuyama interjected, well, if G-Bike is released and becomes a hit, let's make a Final Fantasy VII remake. And so for those of you who don't know, there is a Final Fantasy VII remake that just came out within the last 2 years?
Yeah, well,
we just got another one.
The new installment just came out like yesterday or something, yeah.
So other stuff that he's done, he was a supervisor for the Dragon Ball Z Kakarot game. He wants to make more, I think, anime-based games, so that's kind of cool.
Sure.
He was an event effects designer for Xenosaga Episode 1. He was a lead designer for Final Fantasy VIII. He was a map graphics person for Dragon Quest VIII. He was a songwriter or contributed to for the Slow Doberman for .hack GU Volume 1 Rebirth. He also worked on songs the We Are Grunties and Our Hero Pyros III for .hack GU Volume 2, and then also songwriter for So he's done a lot of songwriting, if you can't tell. He also said personally that he would like to develop Mega Man Legends 3 as he was disappointed in the game's cancellation. And I think we all share that, in that we were disappointed that game was canceled and never came to light. So he said this a very long time ago, but at this point, just give it to somebody and let's have it. I mean, we want Mega Man Legends 3, just give it to us. Give it to us.
Yeah, just give it to us. At this point, I would even take just like a remaster of the old, like Tron Bonne, Mega Man Legends 1 and 2. They could do that and not take a lot of financial risk, and then be like, oh, people want this, and then make the third game or something. But I don't know. I don't know what Capcom's doing.
But anyway, that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, but I wouldn't mind him being one of the developers on that. He definitely is capable of writing good narratives and like doing really cool world building and stuff, because I think even though the comic that we read maybe didn't give you the context to understand it, I think you'd agree that like the world building was all good.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I meant to clarify that in the episode, that it was a review of this specific .hack X4th and not of the .hack universe. But I think we did a good job talking about the universe in the discussion part, that it sounded like we were fans of it. So
We like
comics
because they have no home.
So our penciler, or I guess she's just credited as the artist, is Megane Kikuya. Her first full-time job as a manga illustrator was .hack X4th. So
nice.
She went on to be the penciler for Tokyo Pop's .hack Link and .hack Quantum Plus manga series, and is heavily associated with the franchise. She's also worked on the later anime installment .hack Quantum Walking Party. And so I couldn't really find a lot of information about her with specific interviews, but fortunately the manga that we read actually had interviews with her at the end of each one, so I was kind of able to piece together a few things from that and a couple of things I found online. So Due to all the characters associated with .hack having been designed already for video games, she was given the mandate to keep everybody on model, which is pretty typical, for something like this that's adapted from other media. However, since manga allows more fluid character poses than the 3D available on the PlayStation 2, she was able to really make the characters feel less stiff and more dynamic.
Yeah.
And especially if you were to play those games now, like you will notice that, oh, this is an early PS2 game. Like they don't move as realistically as the characters in the later games. So the main new design element that she contributed was the player character form of Kubiya, which was never seen in the video games. And she also drew Helba's face for the first time ever because Helba's mask never comes off in the games. So those were kind of her things that she got to truly create by herself. I think
Morgana too. Don't we actually not see her in physical form except in this?
No, Morgana is just kind of a presence more that's controlling the cursed waves, and I mean Korbanik is the final boss of the last game, but I think that's the closest you get to like seeing her. During the production of .hack X4th, she expressed regret at needing so many pointers and advisors in order to accomplish her task, but also remarked that she was thankful they took a chance on her. She also felt that adapting such long games into a 10-issue narrative was a challenge, and, for more on that, you can see our episode. But the original length of the chapters wasn't enough to adequately wrap up the story, so she pushed to get the final issue expanded to 30 pages, to which Hiroshi Matsuyama and the team at CyberConnect fortunately agreed. So the last chapter is much longer than the other ones, which, it would have been even more streamlined if they didn't do that. So Kikuya has continued to illustrate manga, although few, if any, of her works have made it across to these shores. The last recorded credit I could find of hers was Macross Fortissimo, which is a series known as Robotech in the United States. So
interesting. Yeah, I think she seemed very humble in the pages of the manga at the end, just basically saying like, hey, if you enjoyed this and you liked it, then that's all that I could hope for. Like, hopefully you liked the art that I did, but if you got any enjoyment, all of it, out of it, then it was all worth it. Like, just very like, hey, this is kind of my first, entry into this, and hopefully you like it. And I think we did like the I don't think there was anything. I mean, when you're forced to do on model, it's kind of hard to like, you either keep them on model or you don't. And it seemed like she did. And the characters did feel very emotive and everything. So I don't think there was anything where I noticed like with the Sonic comic where you see Knuckles and he's just like
or his eyes are like this big. No, and that's funny because you would expect that more in manga than you would like an American comic. So
We like
comic
because they have no bone.
So one thing that we've done with other things that are part of a massive franchise is kind of done a deep dive into the history of it. And so fortunately, I found a couple of different websites. One of them was .hack.info, and another was the actual .hack wiki, where they have a pretty easy to read timeline of like the order that everything happens in. So I don't have all of it. I do have, you can see a lot of the .hack story here, but it's split up into, that one's actually a novel. The AI Buster is a novel. So there are novels, there's video games, there's manga, and then there's anime, and it's all part of one narrative. But it's, for all intents and purposes, split up into 3 seasons. So season 1 takes place in Fragment, which is the prototype version of the world, and the world R1. So that's everything that we're going to cover in this first part. So that consists of the first thing chronologically. This is not release order. This is actually the chronology of events. The first thing chronologically are the Epitaph of Twilight novels, which is a prequel series where Lara Herwick, the niece of Harold, the world's designer, becomes trapped within an early prototype of the game. So interesting that like before it was even released to the public, there was somebody that became like trapped in the game. But he wasn't to be deterred. He kept making it. So the very next thing is .hack AI Buster, which again, it's an actual novel that's been translated. And a lot of this stuff has been translated to English, which is good, because it was fairly popular. It never made it as big as some other anime franchises in the United States, but I think it had enough hardcore fans that they've brought a lot of it over. So The AI Buster novels follow Alberio, who is a system administrator, as he encounters the rogue AI Licorice, who's scheduled for deletion. And she's aware of Morgana's negative influence in the world, but is kind of just resigned to her fate that, like, yeah, I'm going to be deleted. So that's, again, we're already kind of getting into, like, their rogue AI and stuff like that. But the first thing to be produced, the first thing that really made a splash was .hack Sign, which is the anime series that we have right here. It stars Tsukasa, who is the title character there, and as you can see, looks a lot like Elk. So, yeah, from the series that we just read. So, .hack Sign is a 26-episode anime series that revolves around the Wave Master, Tsukasa. Wave Master is a class. It's like the caster class, basically, where they nuke stuff. Wave Master Tsukasa, who becomes trapped in the world and unable to log out, and a group of allies who are searching for the mysterious item, the Key of the Twilight. So, .hack Sign, through the video game, explores issues of identity, depression, philosophy, and grief. All of those things are like things that one or more characters are dealing with, and you sort of like chip away at it as you see their experiences in the game. And especially Tsukasa has a pretty earth-shattering revelation towards the end of the series that I don't want to spoil, but it's something that I did not see coming about who Tsukasa the person is versus the character in the game. So, it also introduces Maha, or Mia, and the primary antagonist for the early games, Morgana. And finally, it introduces Sora, the 10-year-old Ryu Misaki, who would go on to be the protagonist of the GU series. So, in this series, Sora is actually a PK. He is a really immature kid that goes around just attacking other players and taking their stuff. And so that's kind of ironic because his character in the later series will be very against that kind of behavior. So,
not to be confused with Sora.
Yeah, exactly. Sora.
Sora, we gotta go. Mickey's
yeah,
going.
Not that Sora. Totally different Sora. So after .hack Sign, we have the tetralogy, which are .hack Infection, Mutation, Outbreak, and Quarantine. So these
Emok.
are... Yes, Emok.
Sounds Klingon.
It sounds very
Emok.
Klingon. And I see it written as .hack Emok a lot online. So it depends who's talking, what they call it. But this is basically the canon version of the events of the story we read today. And it follows the twin blade Kite and the heavy blade Black Rose as they try to figure out why players are becoming comatose within the world. There are some differences between the games and the manga, but primarily these differences are the inclusion of more characters in the games, Kubiya never taking the form of a PC, and lots of world building done through the in-game forums and news articles. So, kind of like I said in the episode, like that's really what you're missing, is that stuff that you can like, it's like you're playing as Kite the person, because you're on his computer and you get to check his email and you get to look at forums about the game and like what's happening in the real world and stuff, and that all kind of just fleshes it out a little bit more. Yeah. So
it'd be interesting too, because like you're taking these games and you're compressing them into this 2-volume manga, but I would be doing it the other way. I'd be reading a 2-volume manga that kind of gives you some stuff and then playing the game where it's like spread out. So that might be an interesting exercise in just seeing if it goes better the other way.
It would be interesting to see how you react to it too, because it is an action RPG, but the gameplay is pretty stiff and dated. So I don't know. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I think if it gets a remaster, it would be nice for them to do some kind of quality of life things to maybe bring it up to modern standards a little bit more. Although not like they did with the GU collection, because they gave you like so much bonus experience in that you just steamrolled everything and there was no challenge at all. So,
okay with that.
It's fine, but it's like battles are boring when like every battle you get like your max level when you're like halfway through the story and you're just like, okay, why am I fighting now? Like,
what am I fighting for?
I don't exactly. Yeah. So .hack Liminality is the next thing, and I will briefly show this because... Oh, the game's not in there, but the anime DVD is. The game must be inside one of my mini PS2s. Yeah. So anyway, but the Liminality DVDs are sold with the video games as a pack-in. Now, unfortunately, a lot of those got separated from each other, and they're hard to find online. So if you have both, don't get rid of them, or if you do get rid of them, they're worth a lot of money. So just, be aware of that. I think the whole quadrilogy as a set, including the DVDs, is going for about $1,000 on eBay right now.
Wow.
So they've been out of print for a long time. They're pretty hard to find now. I think you can buy, the first three are not that expensive, but the Quarantine is like $250 to $400 by itself. So that last game, for whatever reason, is hard to find. But anyway, so yeah, Liminality is basically what's taking place in the real world, like I said, during the Dot Hack quadrilogy. So Junichiro Tokuoka is a former CC Corp employee trying to investigate the link between coma victims, CC Corp, and the world. And so each of the DVDs packed within the first three games introduce a new character, and then the fourth DVD has them all teaming up to work together while Kite and his party are fighting Morgana in the world. So, and liminality is a term used in anthropology that means the transition between two states, which I did not know. I looked it up. So, Google is your friend. So, this is something that I don't have, but I very much want to check out. Another Birth are a series of novels that are a retelling of the events in the games, but they're all from Black Rose's point of view, instead of it being from Kite's point of view. So I'm like, that actually might be cool to get like her perspective on it as opposed to seeing it all through his eyes. And that brings us finally to Dot Hack X Fourth, which is the manga that we reviewed today. It's an alternate retelling of the events of the tetralogy, intended to streamline the narrative and also more closely align with the GU series that follows. While it was considered completely non-canon for a while due to some differences, Dot Hack Link established that X Fourth was simply an alternate timeline, albeit one that only contradicts the games, not anything after the games. So it's interesting because it contradicts this little period, but everything after and before could be the same and it would still be fine. So yeah, it's kind of a weird thing. Now we're almost to the end of season 1 here. Legend of the Twilight, which is a manga. I originally thought it was an anime, but it was originally a manga, which is 3 volumes that takes place 4 years after Dot Hack Quarantine. So it follows twins Rina and Shugo, who have created player characters in the world based on the famous players Kite and Black Rose. So they look like their character models, but they're totally different people. And they're more like chibi versions of them. They're like short and like funny looking. So they're entrusted with the Twilight Bracelet by Aura, and they go on adventures with Zephy, who is the daughter of Aura in the world. Yeah. So there's also an anime series that lasted 12 episodes, but after the first 4 episodes, it strongly diverts from where the manga went, and it's considered non-canon as well for that reason. So already we're not done with the first season, and we're having like alternate timelines and things happening. So the last thing in season 1 is Dot Hack Fragment, which is something that I really wish that we got in the United States because it's an online and offline RPG that allowed character and dungeon creation all using the engine from the Dot Hack games. So this is the closest that we've got to like an actual MMO that is in that world.
Is that really a good idea?
Maybe not. I don't know. But maybe it's not. But it was originally planned only to take place or have servers up from 2005 to 2006, but it got an extra year added to its server support by Bandai Namco because it was so popular in Japan, but it was still never brought to Europe or NTSC regions, which is us. And it's named for Fragment, which is the prototype version of the world. So it was our prototype for the MMO, but they never like kept developing it. So that kind of... I guess that kind of wraps up like season 1. It's mostly about Kite and his adventures, and also Tsukasa and what goes on with that character in Dot Hack Sign. So,
all right.
We like
Comics
because they have no home.
So we're skipping forward several years now to season 2, or in continuity, we're skipping forward several years. I think they say that this takes place 7 years after the original games end, but it starts with season 2 starts with Dot Hack Roots, which is an anime, which I again have somewhere. Haha! It's
here.
Oh, it's on the bottom, yeah. So Dot Hack Roots. There we go. I am unfortunately missing volume 4, so I have 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. so I don't have the middle DVD there, so I need to seek that out. But it's a prequel series to the Dot Hack GU games, which reintroduces Ryu Misaki, who's now 17 years old, as the protagonist, Haseo. So Haseo slash Sora, as he was originally named, was one of the lost ones during the events of the previous games, and therefore he has no memory of the world. So he's bored, he's kind of living on his own, and he decides to try the world revision 2 on a whim. And so
I've never played this before.
Yeah, I know. So on his first day, he's PK'd. However, he's rescued by Ovan and becomes infatuated with Shino, one of the members of Ovan's guild, the Twilight Brigade. So the beginning of the series focuses on the internal politics of running a guild in an MMO, which if anybody's played like World of Warcraft or something like that, like it's a real thing, getting people to cooperate and like log on at the same time and do missions together. It's very difficult to coordinate. So they actually kind of show a lot of that type of thing in the anime series. But it also focuses on kind of Ovan's mentorship relationship to Haseo and Haseo's kind of one-sided relationship with Shino. The second half focuses on Haseo's hunt for the legendary PK Tri-Edge and shows what happened to Haseo in the 8 months prior to GU. So before GU, Tri-Edge attacks Shino. She goes into a coma in the real world. And we don't know what caused that, basically. And that happens during Dot Hack Roots, but they flash back to it during the video games to give you that context. So it's just a little more like fleshed out in the anime. So then we have Dot Hack Alcor, the manga, which is right here. You can see the red-haired woman is Alcade, who's one of your party members from GU. Alcor focuses on a twin blade named Nanase, who falls in love with Syllabus, the leader of the guild Canard. So if you played the GU games, Canard is like the guild that you join, and there's this little character called a Grunty that greets Haseo that's like, oink! And it's like super rude to you every time.
Insert Gym Sphere, please.
Yeah. The Chims too.
Mecha Grunty!
So I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's actually Hiroshi Matsuyama singing that.
I wonder.
Yeah. I don't think he just wrote it. I think he's actually singing too. So it's very like ridiculous and over the top. But this manga is a little more lighthearted. It's just about like one character falling in love with another one, but it also kind of sets up Alcade as an antagonist for Haseo, because it takes place during her time where she's champion of like the battle arena or whatever. So that's going to kind of come into play in the GU games. So now we finally get to Dot Hack GU, and this is where I started with the franchise. So I guess a little bit of like how I got into it. I was like post-college years, I think. I was living with a roommate, and she moved out early because she was like, I want to go do something else. I don't remember what was going on. So she was subleasing to some other dude that came in and finished out the lease. This guy came in, and our internet went out. So I was like, oh, what do? I can't access the internet. I'd been playing Final Fantasy XI. He's like, hey, you should play these Dot Hack GU games that I have. So I tried playing them on PS2, and it's kind of like playing an MMORPG, but as soon as I started, like, I got hooked on the story, and I was like, oh, I want to get into this more. So that weird set of circumstances is how I got introduced to the series, you know. Nice. And so the GU games follow the adventures of the adept rogue Haseo, who's hunting the player killer Tri-Edge to avenge his comatose friend Shino. So we already kind of talked about that. Unlike Kite, however, Haseo has serious character flaws, and he can be extremely angry, off-putting, and actually openly rude to other people. So while it's never explicitly stated, this is likely due to him losing nearly a year of his life to a coma, as well as his anger at not being able to protect Shino. So it's kind of like now he's going to push everybody away because that happened, and he's like, I'm just better off on my own, I don't need friends, like all this kind of... Yeah. I mean, he's an edgy 17-year-old, like that's the thing that he's doing. So the series also explores the rampant computer virus Ida, which has links to Kubiya from the original Dot Hack games. So if you remember Kubiya, some of his code was left over, it became Ida, and then ultimately Kubiya reforms himself at the end of GU and is like the final boss. So it's kind of a threat from, you know, the previous games coming back to haunt us. But fortunately, I don't think you really need to know any of that to enjoy GU, really, because you can still follow the storyline well enough.
I remember enjoying it, and if anything, that kind of helped me understand kind of more stuff that was going on in this manga, and kind of like, oh, this is going to be important later. Like the things that I did pick up that it's like, oh, I recognize that name, or I know how to pronounce that, or whatever.
Yeah, you would think it's Cubia or something like that, but it's Cubia. So the other new thing that is introduced in the GU series are the Epitaph users, which are special player characters that are able to control the 8 phases of Morgana to protect the world. So the 8 phases, or the avatars now being heroic, is likely due to Aura setting the world right at the end of the original game. So they were never intended to be evil. It's just that's what Morgana used them for, so now they're in the hands of the players. And so there's a lot of like real world issues that they explore, like psychological things throughout the game, which again seems to be something that they like to do with this. And I guess Nier kind of has a similar like thing where they're like, let's explore philosophy and these things in our sci-fi, kind of story. So it explores issues of identity, specifically with Endurance, depression in Haseo, anxiety. Adley is like a super anxious character. Cyberbullying with like Sakaki, who is an actual child sociopath, but then there's also multiple people that are like PKing each other, like player killing each other in the story too. And then Adley's backstory is all about being bullied as well. So, and there's even a character with dissociative identity disorder, which is, spoilers, Sakubo is actually Saku and Bo, but they're one person. So
and you
that's,
actually get to make a choice in the game about how you want to sort of resolve that, which is really interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. You can actually choose to either integrate the personalities into one person or allow them to stay separate so that you have 2 separate party members. So
in the context of the game, it's nice to have the options for the characters.
Right.
But,
So now we get into a period where they're just kind of, I don't want to say like regurgitating the same content, but they're doing a lot of like, hey, GU sold really well. Do you want more of that thing? So they actually made a fully 3D CG movie that was created to compress the story of the games into one shorter, more easily digestible film. So I have that. It's called Dot Hack GU Trilogy. And it's not a trilogy. It's just one DVD. But it's like a film version, basically, of the storyline. So it follows a lot of what happens in the cutscenes, but the animation and production quality is a lot better because it's not on the PS2. It's actually a movie, so it's kind of neat to see it that way, but it's definitely, it's the same thing like with what we just read, where it's like, well, you compressed it down to like the core characters that you absolutely had to have, and like none of the extra stuff is in there. So it's, I don't know, it just kind of feels like something's missing. So that brings us to GU Plus, which is a manga adaptation of Dot Hack GU, similar to what X-Forth was for the original games. It is an alternate retelling and is considered non-canon. So again, this is going to sound familiar. One major difference is that the Epitaph users summon their avatars as separate entities instead of piloting them like combat vessels as they did in the games. So it's more like a summon monster in Final Fantasy, but in the games, like you become Scythe when you're fighting with Haseo.
That's definitely more exciting from a gameplay perspective. And I mean, it's still kind of cool too, because it's like a Gundam or some kind of like mobile suit where you're taking control of something. So, but I guess it makes sense in an MMO that it would be more of a summon monster.
Yeah, I don't know. That's just what they chose to do in the manga. But one thing I want to note is that they did the storyline of GU across 5 volumes of manga, whereas they tried to get and that's only 3 PS2 games, right? Mm-hmm. There were 4 PS2 games for the original quadrilogy, and they did it in 2 manga. So if you want an idea of like how compressed it was, like they really hacked it down.
They dot-hacked it down.
Yeah, they dot-hacked it down to get it to work in that format. So
We like
comics.
because they have no bones.
And this brings us to season 3, which is the World RX, which I guess is the final version. Yes, X! It's the final. One more for the 4th.
One more, yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Don't want to have 3.
No 3 X's, it's all 4. This is probably the section that I'm the least familiar with because I haven't really, a lot of it's not been translated or not been easily accessible here where I live. So the beginning of it is Dot Hack Link, which is a PSP Japan exclusive. and it functions as kind of a greatest hits of .hack with over 130 returning characters from the franchise, 33 of which are recruitable as party members. So it's like, here's everybody, and they're all together in the game.
Like Ultimate Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, it's exactly, that's the idea. It follows the adventures of Tokyo, a junior high student who is mysteriously transported into the game via a modded black copy of the World RX he's given at school. This series has the antagonists actually working directly for CC Corp, so now they're like actively fighting the corporation that made the game in this one, which it seems like they probably should be by this point.
Inevitable.
I mean... So then, as we do with everything, there's also .hack Link the manga, which is a retelling of the events of .hack Link in manga form, and it is also penciled by Megane Kikuya, who did the story that we read today. Tokyo interacts with many past .hack characters in this, including Kite and Haseo, both. So that's pretty cool, but again, I think it's just another, this is another way to present the story. Then we have .hack Quantum, which I was surprised to learn is only a 3-episode original video animation. I thought this was a full-length series, but it's only 3 episodes. So this follows the adventures of Sakuya, Mary, and Tobias in the World RX. Like other .hack series, these players are caught up in mysterious circumstances within the game. Sakuya ends up with an infected right arm, which matches Kite's right arm being the one with the Twilight bracelet. And her character model is actually a female version of Kite's twin blade character model. So it's like she chose the same character model as him, but a different gender, and that's what you get with her. So it's kind of neat how they do that, because that keeps the immersion of it being a game where oh yeah, you're gonna see the same character model again. I don't know, Shino and Adelie in .hack GU have the same character model, they just went with different color schemes. So that, again, is another, you would see that if you were playing an online game.
Right.
So then we have the .hack Quantum Plus manga, which is a manga adaptation of the Quantum anime, but it is considered canon because it doesn't have any major deviations from that story. And then the final thing is .hack Versus, which is a fighting game released only in Japan for the PS3, and it features 8 or so of the most popular characters from the franchise. It was a pack-in combo Blu-ray disc with a movie .hack Beyond the World and the game .hack Versus. So they're all on one Blu-ray disc. So it's... I just looked it up earlier. It's about $75 to import online. Apparently the PS3 is region-free. So you can get something from Japan and it'll work, but I've never played it because it just wasn't available here. So
and even if you did, it's in Japanese, so
it's it wouldn't. Yeah, for a fighting game, I could probably figure it out. If it was an RPG, I would be that's why I've never imported .hack Link or bothered to get a PSP, because I'm I can't read anything and it's an RPG. So you really can't play that without reading.
We like
comics.
because they have no home.
So the future of the franchise has kind of been in flux really since Versus came out, and that's been, I don't know, a long time ago now, because PS3 era, obviously we're 2 generations past that. But Hiroshi Matsuyama has said that he would love to remaster or remake the original tetralogy. However, he says reach out to Bandai Namco, because while CyberConnect 2 were the developers, Bamco holds the publishing rights. So it's kind of a similar situation with Xenosaga, where the original developers, Monolith Soft, they've started making games for Nintendo and stuff, and they made the Xenoblade series. And they're we want to remaster Xenosaga, but Bandai Namco owns the rights. So they have to say it's okay or we can't do anything.
Right.
So the future of the series is kind of in limbo, and it's kind of a shame, because I think it's really a unique sci-fi world, and it's very dense, if you can't tell from all of this description, and I really just skimmed through that as quickly as I could. So
I guess anything's possible. I mean, the fact that we have Disney and then we have Fox under that, and we have Sony that's partnering with them, and it's all kind of together. I mean, anything's possible with these games. All it takes is some kind of contract, and then the publishing rights are available, and then all of a sudden we get remasters and remakes that we've been waiting for a long time.
Yeah.
And as long as Mega Man Legends 3 is among them, I would be very happy.
Yeah, I'd be fine with Hiroshi Matsuyama doing that. I mean, he seems like a good game developer.
Or at least just a port of the of the originals.
Port them.
Even if they don't improve anything, or just barely, that's
Just
fine.
make it playable
Whereas,
on
like-
modern systems.
Yeah. With Final Fantasy VIII, I wanted more.
Yeah.
But with Mega Man Legends, I would be happy just having it.
If they would just acknowledge that we exist, that would be kind of nice. Because
Yeah.
it feels like...
Well, Mega Man in general. We
Mega
want
Man
more
in
of that.
general, it feels like if you're a fan of Capcom's original mascot, Mega Man, that they kind of just ignore you. They're like, well, we're going to make more Resident Evil games. and it's like, but there are
Remaster
all
all
these
those.
people out here. Mega Man 11 was the best-selling entry in the entire franchise, like the whole history of it. And it's been over 5 years since that came out now, so it's just like, what are we doing
Yeah.
here, you know?
Well, and like there's
So.
been so many Sonic games, and we've
Yeah.
done the transition into 3D, and then we did
Yeah.
not so great 3D, and then we did better, and then we did like really good storytelling. And,
Yeah.
we've had all these different Sonic iterations. Whereas with Mega Man, it's like we had the weird 3D that they did in the X games, and then they're like, oh, that
Yeah.
didn't work. Let's just go back to classic Mega Man. And then we had what 9, 10, and 11. were all
9,
kind
10, and
of
11.
classic.
9 and 10 were actually the 8-bit graphics style, but then 11 was modern graphics. But it was still the side-scrolling gameplay, which is fine. I'm like, I'm fine with it looking really pretty, but playing similar to the old games. But yeah, Legends is just such a... It has such cool like lore and such a cool world.
The
and
music was
and
cool,
the
too.
music was good. Like the characters were good. It was such a like special, unique thing. It was almost like crossing Mega Man with like the Zelda franchise, because you have to go into dungeons and like solve puzzles and find keys to get to the next room and all that kind of thing. And it was a really good idea. So it's just really a shame that they've kind of just let that go dormant, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Hopefully, what it'll take is somebody to come along and like champion .hack within Bandai Namco. I think.
Right.
And if there's somebody there that's like pushing for it to get made, then it'll probably happen. But I read online actually that CyberConnect 2 did a lot of the back end work for the early build of Final Fantasy VII Remake, but then it was like taken over by Square Enix, like in-house production. Like halfway through, because they were like, you're taking too long to finish it, basically. So they came and like produced the actual finished game. But it was interesting that you mentioned I shall diminish and going to the west. That you mentioned that Matsuyama had suggested the idea of a remake, because I think that his company actually did work on a little bit of that, but then Square was like, you're taking too long, we're gonna just take this over. So
Well, I mean,
yeah.
that did take a long time.
It did take a really long time. Yeah, it's true.
All right. Well, this has been fun. It's been another after show.
Yup.
Show.
Hopefully that was
So-
interesting for everybody. And
Yeah.
if not, you can click the little thumbs down.
No,
arrow.
don't do that. You should always give us a thumbs up and just let us know in the comments that you love our podcast.
That's
And
right.
That's all you need to do.
Your
So,
podcast is awesome.
that's right. So make sure you tune in to our next episode for Dragon Ball Z, and then we'll have another after show to talk about those. Well, to talk about Akira Toriyama, and then also
Yeah.
just kind of some of our maybe favorite moments from Dragon Ball and
Sure.
Dragon Ball Z, and how inappropriate Goku was when he was a kid in Dragon Ball. Because there's a lot to say about that. But that's next time. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll get you later.
Get you later.
Right here.